welcome everyone. I've got a finger in the background there. Hey, finger.
There you go. Hi guys, how you going? Oh, I'm here.
Good to see you, John.
Thank you. And you too, Greg. It's been a great week. Looking
it
forward
has
to the
been
show.
a great week. We had a bit of a false start. We normally do the stream on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, Smashcast, and it all went bad. I don't know why. And someone said in the chat that Kelly's stream died as well. So when all of that was happening, I said, I'll just turn the other ones off and just start YouTube, and it's working. So touch wood, it's going to be okay.
Here we go, into the show. We've got great guests today, and we got, of course, Stump the Grump we're having. Lots of news. There's been heaps of news in the news. So, yeah, it was good. And a big shout out, too, to my friend, Ultra Mega Man. I see he's there in the chat, so you've got to go and check out his site, like and subscribe. If you love music, lots of music there and other stuff, heaps of stuff. And he actually built these shelves that you can see behind me. I mean, yeah, he's the Ultra Mega Man.
Can I just say, I spent yesterday and the day before, my iTunes library died on me, and I had a whole heap of CDs that I'd imported. And it was interesting going back through the old CDs that I had in the cupboard and re-importing them to the Macs.
Ah, that takes a while. To the Max, you remember that one? Yeah, that's
I
great.
remember that one. I imported that one. I've got the Three Minds CD. I've got the Swing City Rehearsal CD. All of
Oh,
them back in my collection again. So that
well,
was
that's
really good.
any you haven't got, go and see Ultra Mega Man. He's got some great new videos there as well. So anyway, if you're into that kind of thing, we share everything on this channel: music, drones, everything.
He is a musician, Ultra Mega Man, and John, of course, is the drummer in the band. At least there's one musician out of the two of them. But anyway,
Yep,
moving right
yep.
along, before
Boom,
we
boom.
do anything, oldie but a goodie. Before we do anything, I got a couple of shots that were sent in by one of our viewers. Let's just bring those up quickly on the screen. The first one, this is Gary. He's gone and taken these yeah, we'll put that one up. There we go. So
Oh
this
yeah.
is him flying with his, I believe, with his fixed wing. He didn't tell me what he was flying at the time, but there are a couple of shots that he put in the Discord channel earlier today. So I just thought we'd bring them up in the second shot.
Nice, nice.
Nice, nice indeed.
Looks like a
Again,
nice place to fly.
I encourage, oh, it's a lovely place to fly. I encourage everyone to send in any clips, any photos, videos, whatever, and we'll include them in the show in a future episode. But now, before we do anything else, as always, it's time to get into
The news.
the news. And for some reason, the technology is failing me today. Why is
Ju-
that?
Just as well we've got news.
I'll try that one more time, just out of interest. No, it's dead. I don't know if the chats are working, but we'll see how we go. As always, though, is your drone healthy or is it about to surprise you on your next flight? Don't wait to find out. Discover under the hood information and review early signs of problems before you take off again. So OzByDrone news is brought to you by AirData UAV. Use the discount code OzByDrone20 for a 20% discount to AirData UAV.
Absolutely fantastic product, guys. And do you know what? Here's the first bit of news. AirData UAV have just released the iOS and Android app. So you can now have it on your phone. And also there's 10 brand new features with AirData just released this morning, by the way. So there's the first bit of news. Go and check it out. The app's great. I've got it up on both devices now. And, of course, whereas we usually it was very laptop-based before, now you can pull up multiple accounts and multiple aircraft, all your batteries while you're on the go, and it's a great little app. Really does. It's even got the free version. Not sure. Maybe the first level version has a checklist in it as well, which is great. So that's a new feature as well. Have the checklist, and it records that you've done the pre-flight checks. Wonderful stuff. AirData UAV. There you go.
Absolutely. So we'll get into our first story, and apologies, our on-screen graphics are not working today. We'll fix those during the show if I get a chance. But for the moment, the first story, Queensland Police in Australia have shared that they are now equipping officers' motorbikes with DJI Phantom drones to aid in forensic crash investigations. Queensland Police Sergeant Carl Cutler shared how the state's forensic crash unit has been using the Phantom 4 RTK drones paired with Pix4D to map out crash scenes over the last few months during a speech at the Drone Responders Public Safety Talk. He advised that the police found that measurements on the ground were coming in bang on with the Pix4D data.
Yep.
Now, John, you use Pix4D. Obviously, we've spoken about it before, but crash investigations, has it been used much for that before elsewhere, or is this new?
Look, traditionally, crash investigation was done with terrestrial LiDAR. So you might have seen this kind of thing in crime shows, but some of the forensic units would put a tripod up and then the LiDAR would swing around and basically grab what it could. Well, of course, it's not a perfect world. The best thing to do is get the LiDAR up in the air. And I think we're going to see airborne LiDAR doing it eventually. But at the moment, the Phantom 4 RTK is great. It's portable and affordable. The RTK version, a little bit more, of course, probably 3 times what the regular Phantom 4 is, but it does a great job. And as I said, they don't have to put a lot of control in. So what they would do then, you'd get very accurate measurements on the ground of where the vehicles are. It doesn't miss anything, so you can obviously see and make calculations of how the energy in the accident was and where it came from and directions, looking at everything, skid marks, a lot. And, you know, it's very handy in forensic, particularly for accident investigations. I think we'll see it used more. We'll see it used more for crime scenes. And we'll see it used for probably public disturbances and those sort of things. When things have been disturbed on the ground and more. So, yep, it's tip of the iceberg, guys. Here we go again.
Yeah. Okay. And it's interesting you talk about LiDAR because that's our second story. Have you heard about the L1 release, John?
Absolutely. More big news. DJI have got an L1 LiDAR. Finally,
so let's talk about that. The ZenMuse L1 integrates a LiVox LiDAR module, a high accuracy IMU, and a camera with a 1-inch CMOS on a 3-axis stabilized gimbal. Can you say all that? There's a mouthful, absolutely. When used with the Matrice 300 RTK and the DJI Terra system, the L1 forms a complete solution to give you real-time 3D data throughout the day. Let's just have a look at the video. It's a little bit longer than what we normally do, but I think it's worthwhile having a look at.
Imagine a new world, effortlessly digitized by an airborne LiDAR system. Today, meet the ZenMuse L1, a payload that combines the powers of both LiDAR and visible light. It enhances the 3D data capture capabilities of drones and enables you to recreate the world. The L1 integrates a LiVox LiDAR module, a survey-grade camera, and a high-accuracy IMU on a 3-axis gimbal. It has a detection range of up to 450 meters, and the fusion of LiDAR and RGB data produces effective true color, high-density point clouds at the centimeter-accurate level. Infrastructure assets like bridges, power lines, and towers can be modeled precisely by the L1, so you can operate and maintain them safely and efficiently. In heavily foliaged areas, its multi-return capability can penetrate vegetation canopies and capture point cloud data of ground features, as well as bare earth. Extract the vegetation point cloud to acquire information such as tree count, canopy width, and height. The remaining ground surface data can then be used to generate highly accurate digital elevation models for topographic maps. In areas with large changes in elevation, the Terrain Follow feature generates flight paths with variable heights to ensure the consistency of the point cloud data. Nighttime rescue missions in complex terrains have always been difficult. The L1 lets you view point cloud models in real time. Mark points, lines, and areas of interest on the live model to measure and annotate. You can verify fieldwork quality immediately and gain critical insight for on-site decision-making. The ZenMuse L1 forms an integrated solution with the Matrice 300 RTK and DJI Terra. This combo changes the game for the quick creation of true color point clouds and reality models. Upgrade your toolbox with the L1. Recreate your world in vivid 3D.
So lots to unpack there.
Yeah, man, save up your pennies, everyone. They want to sell that Matrice 300. I reckon in some ways, when you look at what the cost of this is going to be, I think it's going to be affordable. If you looked at the Terra drone 12 months ago, carrying a Velodrone LiDAR system, probably about $250,000 without the batteries. Pay a bit more for the batteries, $250,000. And they've sort of come down quite a bit too, but they're state-of-the-art LiDAR stuff. So you were looking at more than $100,000 for that. So, we've halved it. I reckon that would be a $20,000 LiDAR easily. And also this week, probably a little less noticed, was DJI released the P1, which is a photogrammetry camera as well. So I suppose, for our recreational listeners thinking here, it sort of pushes the technology a bit further. It pushes our whole industry into a much more interesting field, like forensics, photogrammetry, engineering, making those holes so that, I suppose if you're just doing this for fun and you're thinking, I'd love to make the jump into business, you've got some real choices now in terms of what area you go into. And start with your Phantom, start with your Mavic. You can always jump into this business with that airplane and work your way up. Get the skills. But there you go. Big day in DJI, and we're expecting more from them soon as well.
I actually got a message in my inbox this morning about another announcement in a day or two. I can't remember the exact messaging, but it was pretty vague. I think it was another Osmo handheld kind of device. That's what it felt like to me, but we'll see.
Yeah, it did look like that to me too, October 20. So we'll see another handheld camera device.
Stop the presses. We've got a $10 super chat from Metro Drones. Thank you, Metro. Woohoo.
Thanks, Metro.
Hey, I got to get party poppers that I can let off. And another one from Wayne King. Thanks, Wayne. Appreciate the super chat. Wayne. Let's do that next week. Party poppers.
You can't get your screen captions going. What are you going to do?
They're working now. They're working now.
You'll hurt yourself if you have a party popper. Lloyd's in the background shaking his head. I know what he's thinking. All right.
Should I point them at my producer? That could be interesting.
That would be dangerous. Hey, just on the back of the DJI stuff as well, there's a bit of news about Skydio this morning. I'd love to ask Grumpy about that because it's getting a bit dissed. They're not delivering, and they're not following the FAA guidelines. They're putting up all these videos the FAA is not happy about, and this was going to be a pretty serious little airplane, but it's not off to a good start. They're dissing DJI, saying, "Oh, you've got to fly those airplanes. Our airplanes fly on their own." I mean, I'm not interested already, on something that flies on its own. Nothing in it for me. But, it's an interesting little sidekick. I saw that this morning come in on the news as well. Have you heard that, Grump?
No, I hadn't. Now what aircraft is it?
The Skydio 2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's American made, but it's got a lot of. It's a great little drone, but it's guys like you and I aren't going to use it. Maybe if we're out snowboarding or something, it'd be good for that.
Well, the one the FAA's worried about is that guys they're driving their cars around doing skid pans and stuff, and you let the airplane fly itself, so it follows your car. When you race around the track. No one's flying the airplane. The airplane's flying. It's clever.
Yeah, it follows the fob that you have with you. You have the controller on you, and it follows
if
you're
driving the car, who's watching the airplane?
Well, that's the problem. And that's
no line of sight.
Yeah.
Well, you got to watch the road. I mean. Well, anyway,
yeah. Look,
I'm just putting it out there. I would
finish.
Try it.
Yeah, I'll just finish with one other quick comment. I'm trying to get a hold of, his name escapes me at the moment, the drone laws from DJI. He's their legal and regulatory guy. What's his name? Brendan Schulman. I've reached out to Brendan and said, look, I'd like to have you on here, and I think it'll be an interesting discussion if he will come on. There might be some baggage to overcome. The fact that DJI's issues have come from a lot of the previous security vulnerabilities and issues that they had with their aircraft, and I was part of that research team. So if he can get over the fact that the past is the past, I think it'll be a good discussion to have with him as well. But let's move on. Our next story is this one, as I get our titles working. There we go. Next one. Last month, China conducted a test involving a swarm of loitering drones deployed from a box. Now, I'll just say at the very beginning, the original music that was with this clip, I had a copyright hit on and I couldn't use that music, so I've put this music on. Leave it playing. There we go. So with so many deployable drones in those tube launchers, and they can also be deployed from helicopters, it's definitely, as Ken Heron would say, it is I'm waiting for Lloyd.
A force multiplier.
Okay. It is a force multiplier. That's one of Ken's favorite words. But here's what I want to do. Turn the music up. When I was putting the music together for this clip, I was looking for something of the specific length, and I just thought it was a funny match to have this music with it as well. Anyway, that was all. Let's kill that. But all jokes aside, and we'll stop the music, nothing new, but certainly they're doing some more testing of some loitering drones in a swarm. John? And
Sorry, I'm not now. I'm unmuting because I was gasping before.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting, talking about you need some real money to get into that kind of stuff, let alone develop the technology. But it's interesting to see where that's going to go. Swarms terrify, I suppose, a lot of the industry at the moment. It's still a lot that's not understood, but it's very sophisticated software, that's for sure. Yeah, and a little bit later, our guest is going to. He has some swarm technology, so it's really relevant that these things came up today, and that we've got him on. But we've got two more quick stories before we go to him. The first one is swarm countermeasures, and Italian defence contractor Leonardo recently conducted a successful demonstration in partnership with the British Royal Air Force of an autonomous swarm of unmanned aircraft, each carrying a variant of its Bright Cloud expendable active decoy as an electronic warfare payload. In the demonstration, various remotely piloted small aircraft outfitted with jamming technology were confounded as the radars simulating enemy Air Force defence systems. So long story short, electronic countermeasures, putting out RF, I'm assuming fake GPS and other signals to go and confound a swarm of drones. So you've got the swarm and you've got the anti-swarm. Yeah, looks good. I love a cartoon like that.
Yeah, it's a nice cartoon. I'm glad you said that.
Nice cartoon. Someone,
Looks like somebody's playing with their flight simulator.
I know. I see a lot of cartoons. I don't see a lot of...
Supposedly it was successfully demonstrated, but we don't have the military testing of that. But this is the only footage that I have of that, and we've got the nice little bangs and
I can make up that kind of stuff. We've got the radar on that, haven't we, Lloyd? Anybody wants to make we have the technology. We make up a cartoon and show us what you got, and let's see it down in the flying field. I want to see this thing work. I want to see it blow stuff up.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. We've got one more quick story before we go to our guest, and again, there's a relevance to him today. North Carolina Lucid Drone Technologies has begun working with sports stadiums in a bid to allow spectators to return to games. The company, formed by Davidson College graduates, will reportedly use 2 disinfecting drones for Atlanta Falcons versus Carolina Panthers game on Sunday, the 11th of October. So, of course, they're calling it the D1 drone, as you would. Now, hypothetically, there's nothing new about this. I don't think that you actually need anything special to do disinfecting versus crop spraying, as far as I know, but it's another use of drone technology. The question is disinfecting actually going to kill the coronavirus on the surfaces within the stadium? That I don't know. I don't know that anyone's done the research. They've got a gig, yeah, absolutely. They've got a gig. Contact us on this phone number, and there's the email address. The question is, and this is a good question as we throw to our guest now. It's time to bring him in. Let's go to our guest, and it's Charles from XAG. G'day, Charles.
Hi, everyone.
G'day. Let's get that out of the way, and there you go. Welcome. So tell me, Charles, XAG, what does XAG stand for?
Oh, yeah, it's X-Aircraft Agriculture. Basically, the company started back in 2007. And back then we were called X Aircraft, and we made everything that's got to do with drones. So not just focus in agriculture. However, the whole company have just focused in agriculture back in year 2013. That's why we changed the company name in 2013 to XAG or XAG.
Okay, so let's pick on a couple of the points that came out in some of our stories, and it was totally coincidental. But the first one, do you think, or have you seen any research, does spraying drones in stadiums, has anyone proven that it's actually effective? And sorry, I just so everyone knows, I haven't briefed Charles on the questions that we're going to ask, so this is totally unscripted. And if you don't know the answer to the question, it's totally okay to say that as well.
No, it's good that you asked me these kind of questions, because not a lot of drone or a large or mass-producing drone company actually go out and do physical operations. And we only the very few companies that actually go out and do it and prove the actual technology or the application actually works. So in terms of disinfectant spraying or fighting with COVID-19, we have done a lot of trials and a lot of work in many different countries, including Australia. Now, what we find in actually spraying in stadiums, for example, the story that we had before, is the challenge to get that disinfectant underneath the seats.
Yeah.
Those are the areas that are hard to get to. Unfortunately, the drone's only spraying from the top down, so you can't actually get underneath those seats and those gaps. And you need a large volume of disinfectant, where then the drones can only carry so much.
And that was kind of my thinking. That was kind of my thinking. The amount that you would need to spray for the disinfectant to be effective in killing the virus. I mean, let's face it, spray is droplet particles, and there's going to be gaps between those particles unless you hover over a particular area for a long time and dump your tank. And by the time you do that, it's not going to become cost effective. You know, I wonder, has anyone independently done that kind of research?
We have done that research with other companies to look at those results. Basically, the results have come up to be of what we expected. It's not going to be as cost effective as we originally hoped. One way of actually increasing that volume is actually swarming the aircraft. So swarming a fleet of aircraft to cover that same area, then we'll be able to increase the actual volume that we applied over that area, certain area. However, what we have finding will be effective is actually our ground-based unit, which is the R150. Which is actually spraying it on the ground rather than from the air. Then you can cover all the areas from top down and from the bottom up as well.
Okay, let me come back to that. So you led into the next question kind of thing very well. Thank you for that nice throw there. Swarming. Now, I thought you're not allowed to pilot more than one drone at the same time. John, regulatory man, I know you're having a little nana nap in between there.
I'm not. I'm listening. I got caught. Thank you very much. Yeah.
What's the deal? What's the deal with regulatory stuff with regard to can you pilot more than one drone in the same time? How would you get approval to do swarming?
Well, here's the thing again, and I've worked this before. You can do anything you like. You can pilot more than one drone. You can pilot hundreds of drones. But if it's outside of the regulations where you are, you've got to make a safety case for it. And so it depends. The first thing in the safety case is where are you doing it? You know, if you're doing it inside a department store, there's probably going to be some other risks you've got to mitigate. If you're doing it out in the bush, not a problem. So you know that's the way we open doors to these things. If it's safe and you're doing it in the right sort of place. Now, as you prove the technology and you get a safety case for a certain area, then you can expand that area. That's the way it's done. Anyway, that's the way it's done. At the moment, if you look at the piloting one aircraft at a time, the laws are there because they want to say, well, if you want to step outside of that, we want to know about it.
Okay. And Charles, have you played in this space yet? Have you or anyone else you know got an approval from the regulator?
Yes, XAG Australia does actually have an instrument of approval. That's what it's called. We worked very hard on that, and we were one of the very few operators that I know of that's actually got that kind of approval in Australia to swarm. John is exactly right. You need to prove the case. You need to raise up a case or area that you're going to operate in, show them how you can mitigate the risk. Then you can actually, have to go and show a CASA representative or CASA assessor that the technology works. So we have done all of that, and we got that instrument of approval back in 2017.
Oh, congratulations. That's great. That's great work, Charles. A lot of people sometimes just turn away from that kind of thing. There's instruments of approval, and so they keep saying to me, that's the way you move things forward, and that would be a hard one to get, and expensive. I know what they cost to get an instrument of approval, and you need to get your wallet out because you're going to be using someone's time to do it.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so don't tell me the secret sauce in terms of your exact method of doing that, because that's your commercial IP. But tell me about the type of application where that's being used or where it was used, and what was the result. Talk to us about that.
Well, what we find, a lot of people challenges drone area application in terms of volume, speed, and area it can cover and payload and such. Some of the common questions that's thrown at us is, the drone can only carry, 16 liters or 20 liters. You only can fly for 10, 15 minutes. How do you compete to the equipment that's already available, or the technology is already available in the market, in terms of helicopters, fixed-wing aircraft, boom sprays, even manual sprays? Of course, we can compete with manual spraying, but what about boom spray, helicopter, and also fixed-wing, which is widely used in Australia already, and in developed countries like Australia, and also the US, UK, and all those countries. Of course, in China, it's a different story, and in Vietnam, in those countries, they're developing. They don't have as advanced ag tech as we do in Australia. What we find is how to tackle that and how to answer those questions is, number one, is we have made drones that can carry more payload. It's not hard. Technology is already there. However, if you make it too heavy, it's too hard to transport. And the transport cost goes up, and your operational cost goes up because you need more than one pilot to carry the equipment. Second of all, if you make it fly longer, you can have it hybrid, you can have it, petrolized helicopters. Yes, your aircraft might be able to stay in the air for 2 hours or 3 hours. However, your payload runs out before, so you need to land anyways. So when you land, you might as well change the battery and the payload at the same time to make it efficient. So the best combination is actually having the payload and the battery run out at the same time. Yeah. So you can change both payloads and have them continuously operating. And
then you scale it by adding aircraft.
Exactly right. And that's how we get our numbers up, and that's how we compete with manned aviation. And we're getting phone calls from manned aviation companies go, how are you getting business away from us now?
Okay. So aside from, let's talk about how many swarming aircraft did you get an approval for? Was that listed in the approval, or was that?
Yes, it is.
That's
how many? Correct.
Can you say?
5.
Okay, so 5 aircraft swarming together. And can you describe, are they autonomy in terms of the swarming, or is it pre-programmed mission paths that are never going to intersect? Or can you share a little bit there?
Yeah, they are pre-programmed mission paths that will never cross path, basically. The aircraft does have onboard collision avoidance systems, so they would stop and will not collide if there is on a collision path. So it's very similar to manned aircraft air traffic control, but it's all done by the actual programming.
Okay, and I've got one more question on that. If you're a farmer, do you need to be a three-dimensional thinker in terms of laying this out, or are you guys going to come in and do it? If you're a farmer, can you learn this? Do you have to be a super geek to work it out so that they're not going to intersect?
No, it's quite easy to work out, and we do provide, and that's where we're different as well. we actually do provide, when we still insist on providing the manufacturer's training. So when they come and do their type endorsement for the P30, we actually train them on the system, how to use the system as well. And it is that simple and that modular, we'll be able to really get them up in a very short period of time. And that's what we find. And 90% of our clients are all farmers. And from farmers, they've turned to operators.
Okay. Sounds good. Look, thank you for being here and thank you for being our guest today. We're going to quickly jump into a little bit of our regular fun and frivolity as we go to... Let me see if I can get the right button.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to play Stump the Yank.
Well, not Stump the Yank because we don't have a Yank guest here today, but we do have the Grump.
I'm a Yank.
Yeah, you're a Yank, but it's a generic one, and this is Stump the Grump. It's a special one just for you.
Yeah, it
This
was
is
the
where
hair
we
jump,
have,
right?
Yeah, this is where we have a little bit of fun, and we ask our guest today, and I did give you only a very brief explanation of this before we went on air today. Have you got something interesting, trivia related, that you can stump the Grump on?
I try my best to look it up. You know, I don't. It's very short notice. Unfortunately, I don't have the best.
He does that to me all the time.
What did you find? Anything?
See, I might sound like an Aussie, but you know, it's still, you know, I've been here for, you know, more than 20 years. But you know, in my blood, I think I'm still an Asian, still a Chinese. So I can't find enough that energy to stamp the Yank.
So, have you got anything?
Ladies and gentlemen,
I didn't
boys
do
and
that.
girls, it's time.
I got to fix that one day. It did that last time as well.
I got a new one, Greg, for today. This one's for Lloyd. He may be pretty good on this, but, you know, there's a lot of tried and true Aussie humour, you know, about Sheilas and blokes and, you know, kangaroos loose in the top paddock and all of the stuff that we use. This week, and Charles is going to love this week we've got a new one. So what would I be doing if I did a naughty gladdy? A naughty gladdy.
You know,
would I be lying to the ICAC? Would I be having hanky-panky with some of my other ministers? I don't know. What's a naughty gladdy? All of the above.
considering your politics and what I think I remember hearing about it last night, probably all of the above.
Yeah. So Gladys is Gladys Berejiklian, who's the leader of New South Wales, the political leader of New South Wales,
Yeah.
and she was called before the ICAC, the Independent Commission Against Corruption, because of a relationship.
Indiscretion, perhaps.
Indiscretion, a relationship, whatever you want to call it, with someone who has been doing some naughties, and what she know and who she knew and all of those kind of things.
And look, it's not really a big deal. We just love to make fun of it over here. We don't get too serious about our politics.
No, we don't. It's a
And
naughty gladdy. I like that one, though.
She's actually pretty good at what she does. And but anyway, people.
That's why she's naughty, right?
That's right. She's naughty. She's one of us. She's basically one of us. Because but everyone loves to poke fun at their politicians. I'm sure you do too. Anyway, the naughty gladdy is a new one of mine, so I'll throw that in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else for us, Charles?
No, mate. I'll go with that.
Okay. Look, it was just a bit of fun. I didn't give Charles any prep time, but let's do the reverse. Let's do the reverse. Grump, I'm sure you can pull one out of thin air. And, since Charles has obviously had a non-native birthplace, let's see if we can stump you with some Aussie trivia, because Grumps has got pretty good at it.
Nah, he'll be good. Charles will get it. Don't worry. He's into it. I can tell.
Okay.
He's looking
I'll
hard.
go through here.
He's looking it up.
Yeah, I am.
You can use one you've used before because Charles hasn't seen the show before, so, you know.
Yeah, click on Australia, mate. We're right down the bottom, over to the left.
That's it. You can't
There
miss
we go.
it.
What? Let's see if I can read this. Yeah. What is a DAG? Somebody like Greg?
Yeah.
Or somebody like John?
Oh, no.
Or somebody like me? What is a DAG?
Well, I always try to choose the person that actually asks the question.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't go wrong with that.
Well, actually, someone who is a bit of a nerd or geek, which would be Greg. Greg over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
I dress like a dag, and I've been called a dag. But do you know where the word comes from originally, Lloyd?
No. Tell me.
Okay, let me enlighten you. A dag is what a farmer would call a small piece of sheep poo that gets caught. That gets caught in the fur around the back of the sheep, and it gets wrapped up in the wool, and it gets stuck there. That's a dag. So if
that's where it came from,
and that's why
where it came from.
That's why you picked Greg. So there you go.
There you go.
So, Charles, you had no idea what you were stepping into when you agreed to come on the show today.
There's a pun right away.
Yeah.
Can we get back to the? Can we get back to drones, please?
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll get back to the news. Yeah. Charles, you're welcome to stay in the background. And if there's anything topical that we're talking about in the news, just raise your hand up and we'll put you on the screen if you want to make any comment on the rest of the news stories as we go. If you've got to leave, totally understand as well. Up to you.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Hey, Charlie.
Let's go over here. Thanks, Charles, for being with us. And for those who are in the chat room, we've got the URL for XAG. It's being put out in the room there. You can go and check that out and have a look. But for now, let's go to that. Our next story is a general aviation drone. Now, this one, reliable robotics. Although aerial drone deliveries have been tested for medical supplies and e-commerce, other applications are possible. Reliable Robotics and Guiamara this week announced the joint launch of an automated flight test program to help solve supply chain and delivery challenges within the fresh produce industry.
That's a big drone.
Our lives have been profoundly impacted by automation, but when it comes to air transport, the benefits are yet to be fully realized. We are just barely scratching the surface. We only utilize 100 or so commercial airports in the US, when we have over 5,000 airports available for public use. The future is not going to be large aircraft flying hundreds of people at a time between a limited number of airports. The future will be smaller, automated aircraft connecting more cargo, more people to more places across the world. We started Reliable Robotics because we believe aircraft should fly themselves. Starting from a certified airplane, we added our own avionics, our own mechanisms, our own software, our own communication systems to enable this aircraft to fly itself.
Have you heard of this company, John?
After a year of development, we received FAA approval to fly with a remote pilot.
It's a great idea.
Turning left crosswind for 3-1, remaining in left closed traffic.
We are creating a system that will have been tested in more flight conditions than any pilot could ever experience in a lifetime. The next step in our plan is the automation of cargo aircraft, and we've already demonstrated automated flight on a popular cargo plane. Advanced automation systems will enable a future where aircraft operation is safer, more secure, more convenient, and fundamentally transformative to the way goods and people move around the planet.
Yeah, interesting.
Really interesting. I mean, it's pretty special. I mean, it's a big radio controlled plane, and it's got a lot of our tech in it, and of course, for freight and so forth. The best part about it, of course, if you're using a certified aircraft, all of that work's been done. They're available. You're not starting from scratch and building something. that you've got to put the engine, all the hoses in, and the fuel, and it's all there. It's done. It's got its perhaps Part 135 certification, and all you're doing then is proving the control link works. And there's more tech now. I didn't want to oversimplify it, but it's a really smart idea. Why start with a clean sheet? I mean, you can build, carbon fiber aeroplanes. If you got Bert Rutan, he'd have something up there in no time that would, be quite unique. But there, as I said, the certification challenges are there, and probably the most expensive part of it is certification.
And they've actually said they've already got FAA approval for this.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, once again, like we talked about before, Charles, the thing is probably not flying over, a lot of built-up areas. It's probably flying on a test range, and so they're developing the C2 link. That type of technology, different to the swarm technology, again, is going to push the way we link. Now, there's been a new paper about emerging technologies being released in Australia. The government has very, intelligently put together a paper about how they're going to support emerging aviation technologies in the future. And one of the things that industry's come back with again is the point that I've talked about before, is that why can't we have our own frequency spectrum for unmanned aircraft? Why are we using domestic Wi-Fi, which is crowded with everything else and microwaves and all of the other stuff that we know is keep it out of the domestic area and give it a frequency spectrum where it's nice and clean, and you can have really reliable long-range links, much higher power licenses and so forth, because we've got a limit in the Wi-Fi band. If you start boosting your Wi-Fi because you're going to start using longer-range aircraft, or then you're going to burn and fry everyone within 2 kilometres of you that's trying to use Wi-Fi. So let's get out of that space and use different type of C2 links. Look, they are around. They're very expensive.
Can I just jump in with a couple of things? Just briefly, Wayne is saying, would you be a passenger? Would you agree to be a passenger in an aircraft of that type?
Excuse me. Yeah, I would, because I can fly it, but that's the wrong answer. But I would. I mean, we're going to see the same question is about that. Lloyd's going, no, he's not going to.
I want to be in an aircraft where I know that the pilot's in control, even if he has a heart attack. At least I know I could probably get hold of it. But, that technology, somebody jams it or sends the wrong signal, at least, I have survivability. Even if the old guy has a heart attack, I can get hold of the controls and maybe land it,
Yeah, look, it's always going to be freight first, and I agree with you, Lloyd. There's so many questions there, and I can say, oh yeah, I'd
cargo,
love to do that. Yes,
but
cargo's
for people,
the way.
No.
You know what? If we go back, the very first aeroplanes that were being used and carried mail, they were mail aircraft. We know that, and so eventually you can take a passenger along, and so in the US they flew mail all over the place for years before passengers started riding in airplanes. Same thing is going to happen here again. And it will be, there'll be plenty of safety and experience wrapped around it as well.
By then, I'll be too old to care.
Yeah. I'm too old to care now.
Let me ask you, John, another question. You said you want to see the day when we've got a dedicated spectrum. Yep. How about an alternative? How about a general purpose network, let's say 5G, which is a shared medium but meets the reliability requirements?
Well, the 5G network is going to be crowded eventually too. My objection is not the technology itself, but it is the sharing of and the interference that's involved in it. Once the military, have a lot of their own frequency spectrum, the medical profession. Now, everybody's quite happy about that. Do you know where medical Wi-Fi is? Medical Wi-Fi channels sit right above domestic Wi-Fi, but they are clean. Now, you remember when we first able to hack our DJI aircraft, the early Phantom 3s.
We could use that, yeah.
We could use that frequency spectrum, because in some countries it was allowed, and so you'd hack in and you'd have, instead of 8 channels of Wi-Fi, you'd have 32. You'd have those ones above, and I bet you can remember flying in those channels where it was nice and clean. You never had any interference, and obviously someone was on an operating theatre and you're flying around a hospital, you might have caused a bit of grief. But you know that I jest about it. But the medical profession understands. They said, you know, if our equipment needs that, and we're saving lives, and we've got lawful purpose to have a frequency. I think the safety case is there to have a frequency band for unmanned aircraft, because I think it'll actually allow the technology to have those reliable links. And let's face it, that's one of the things that high on the list is the lost link. You know what I mean? What do you got when you've got to go to CASA? Whether you want to fly swarms, whether you want to fly those type of aircraft, the big headings there is lost link. What are the procedures? What is the reliability of the system? And you know what? Without putting too fine a point on it, everybody, we're flying unmanned aircraft, but we're piloting them from the ground. The link is actually, you know, as clever as they are, the link is the main, most important aspect of what we're doing is that link.
Yeah. Okay, look, a lot of food for thought. People in the chat, if you've got any questions about that discussion, a lot of interesting things to think about there. But for the moment, let's go to our next story. And this one is something that we're going to flap around about a little bit. A black-headed gull brought down a drone over a school in southwest Scotland. A roof survey was being carried out at the Strana Academy in July when the attack occurred. An Air Accidents Investigation Branch report said that the pilot had never experienced the level of aggression shown by the bird. It attacked the 6-kilo drone, causing it to crash on the school roof and suffer substantial damage. The incident happened at about 12:20 on the 8th of July. The recently released AAIB report said that all normal pre-flight checks had been carried out, including an assessment of potential bird interference.
Yep. There's not much you can do about this, guys. It's one of the things I keep, in our training courses, I keep telling guys when we're flying out at EVLOS levels, if you are, when you're flying greater ranges particularly, got to keep an eye out. Now, the other thing is bird mitigation. So when's the magpie season here, Greg? September? Everybody in Australia nodding on that one? And yeah. Who's had a magpie go for the very aggressively go for your aircraft? I mean, I see it all the time. And yeah, once the season's finished, it's gone. So just know the seasons, know when the birds are about, and look it up if you don't know. I've got a lot of ducks that migrate by the boat here. Very specific times of the year and temperatures. They come by, they'll drop in, and they'll go. And for those few days, I've got a choice. I won't fly. I mean, I've thought about getting up there and trying to film them, but I'm actually worried that I scare them off because I actually like them coming through, and landing here and then spending a bit of time and then going. But we all make choices as you need to. Wayne, training my magpies for the last 2 months. Wayne, that's absolutely interesting. Look, the birds are going to be aggressive in terms of nesting, but here's the thing: the magpie thing, and we've practiced this. If a bird's approaching you and you want to escape the bird, don't do it laterally. Do it vertically. All right. So the first thing that'll happen is the bird will come towards you, and what we try and do is run away. Go vertical. Now, down is a good way to go, but the best way to go is up. You got to get on the thrust, stop the airplane where it is in its tracks, and hit the thrust and just go up. And the bird will go, whoa, what's going on? No, I can't do that. The bird will have a little bit of a fright, and it will back off. Now, as soon as it backs off, as you've gone for your height, then start moving away from it laterally. But go for height first and stop the airplane. So if you don't actually move forward while you do it, and the bird will think, okay, there's something not right here. And remember, a bird understands a threat is above it. So a bird of prey that's going to take it, that's below it, it doesn't feel as threatened. It only feels when it's above. So you're making a threatening move, but the idea here is that, you're not going to hang around. You're going to actually make the threat, climb the drone, because let's face it, you don't want to injure the bird. That's the thing. So it's better to say, hang on, I got the I got the
the upper hand.
I got the upper hand here. I can go 72 kilometres an hour. Roy's getting, sorry, Roy. I was saying Lloyd's getting his shotgun out already. So, but as I say, Americans handle things differently anyway, so that's absolutely, yep, you've got that right. If the bird's over your property, you shoot that thing. Good luck to you.
Yeah. One other quick comment and question, and this goes to those who are watching these channels are very well aware of the famous Ken Heron eyeballs, the eyeballs you can put on your drone. And certainly in Australia, when it's magpie swooping season, I know many people swear by taking their sunglasses off and putting them on the back of their heads as a defense, because the magpies are going to not know which way to swoop at, because they normally swoop at the back of your head. So
that's right.
Maybe there is something to the Ken Heron eyeballs after all.
Yeah, well, they're better. If you really want some good mitigation for it, get little glass buttons, right, and put them on the aircraft. We do it on the fixed wings. We have glass buttons that look like eyes, and they work well, particularly with kites, birds of prey, and other more aggressive birds. Larger birds, they look at the eyes and they think, I'm going to keep away from you.
Not going to go there.
Not going to go there.
Okay, we got two more quick stories. The first one, a huge fixed-wing solar-powered drone that can act as a mobile cell tower from 62,000 feet high has taken to the skies. The idea behind it all is that airborne cell towers would allow greater network coverage and would also move into areas that need signal. With that in mind, developers have been attempting to get such a concept to work. Since the aircraft would be in the air at all times, they are using renewable energy, using solar, for example. And now Alphabet's Google's parent company and Japanese tech giant SoftBank have now tested the solution. The Sunglider aircraft successfully took to the skies and ran a stable LTE cell tower connection that allowed people to connect to an online meeting. It is very impressive that this project has been a success, and that a pilotless craft that relies on solar power is just unthinkable a few years back. John, thoughts, comments?
Oh, what a great thing. I mean, who doesn't love being part of this hobby? Yeah, that's one of ours. That's a fixed wing drone. It's light. I've got a question. See if you can put it in the chat. Why would you take off? Think about the weight of the aircraft and how flimsy it would be. Because you fly this out of Wyndham in the desert, off in the desert. Why would you take off at night?
Okay, super chat.
Why do you take off at night?
Have a look at the chats. Why would you take off at night?
There's one really good reason why, and it's solar powered. You think to yourself, hang on, why would we take off at night? Because you've got your batteries fully charged on board. That goes without saying. But there's something about flying in the day, and the same reason that some crop dusters fly at night when they're spraying. Very same reason.
I've got a thought, but I don't want to say it.
Have a go.
No, I want to let the chat catch up first. Let's see what the chat comes up with.
Everybody's busy Googling, right? And so if I'm wrong, please tell me. But there's usually a pretty standard reason why.
Can you put E0's first one up and then Trevor's? Can you put them up for us, please, Grumpy? The first one from E0 is coming. Less turbulence.
Yeah. It's the movement of air during daylight.
And so Trevor is saying temperature?
Yeah, temperature creates the turbulence. So it's all related to the fact that warm air... Now, you'd think that warm air rising would help the aircraft climb, and it does. But the problem you've got is that the warm air rising is turbulent, and it can sometimes break the craft so they lose it. So what you do is you take off just before sunrise, get away from the ground, and then as soon as the energy of the sun starts coming to the atmosphere, you're up in the higher levels anyway. You've been burning batteries for 5 hours, and you're getting up into the thin air where the thing can start really working its case. We had a look at this. The Zephyr is another one, a lightweight aircraft that's being trialled at Wyndham at the moment in Australia. And they've got a complete range out there that they're flying off the Indian Ocean, and they're getting 24-hour flights up there easily at higher than 65,000 feet. Way above the jetliners.
How do you... where is the top of airspace regulated to in terms of aviation?
That's easy. Flight level 450, we call it. So 45,000 feet. Above that, the Concorde used to fly outside controlled airspace, which was a lot of fun, flying across the Atlantic. And yeah, they limit, one of the reasons you limit controlled airspace is because you need a certain amount of manpower, computing power, people to manage a certain volume of airspace. So you don't want to have too much. You have as little as you need to. And so above 45,000 feet, it's free for all. And guess what, guys? If you take your drone, whatever it is, up through controlled airspace, and you can get there to above 45,000 feet, you can do what you like. You can fly anywhere. You can do what you like. So it's all yours, free for all. No airliners up there, nothing. You might run into that thing, but
could you hitch a ride on another aircraft, maybe on one of Tesla's rockets or something, and then deploy, and then it's yours for as long as you can stay airborne?
Now, I was doing a talk the other day. You mentioned about the SpaceX landing. And I know my mate, Ultra Mega Man, we watched this a few times together, is basically that's our stuff too. The way that unmanned rocket returns to the Earth, and you watch the way the thrusters work, it's probably got a Pix Hawk in it.
Probably.
It's probably got the same tech in it. I'm sure it's a better version, but it's the same idea.
Yeah, we're going to have to get him on one day on the show as well.
Wouldn't that be something? That'd be pretty cool.
That would be fun. That would be fun. We've got one more quick story for today. The drone technology is being used within the shipping industry, as we know, to make sea travel safer, less expensive, and more environmentally friendly. Redmond Shannon visited one British manufacturer at the cutting edge of the sailor-free maritime technology.
USV Max Lemur is back on dry land. During a recent 3-week mission surveying the Atlantic seabed, the uncrewed surface vessel pushed new boundaries of maritime technology, all controlled from this room back at base in the east of England.
Over the course of the 22 days, we managed to survey over 1,000 square kilometres. The intention of the project itself was to go out and prove how this vessel will handle in true ocean conditions for longer periods of time. So we were off there for 22 days.
The mission was actually a Plan B. Plan A was to attempt a historic unmanned transatlantic voyage from Nova Scotia to England until COVID-19 made the logistics impossible.
The USV Max Lemur will fit in a single 40-foot container. That single 40-foot container can be shipped anywhere around the world for tens of thousands versus a mobilization which can go up to $1 million just to mobilize a vessel.
The production and operating costs are also a fraction of conventional surveying vessels.
Uncrewed ships are about more than just economics and efficiencies. The technology could have an impact on the carbon footprint of the wider shipping industry.
Right now, the industry has a similar-sized emissions impact to aviation. As this technology develops, freighters won't need bulky accommodation, potentially making them smaller and lighter.
On top of that, we start to have crew.
When I won't bother playing the rest of that, but what are your thoughts there?
There we go. Yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, I love the idea, and it's the same reason that we have unmanned aircraft that can do so much, because you're flying in a large space. The ocean's a big space. There's not a lot of risk that you're going to run into a lady pushing a pram.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't have to worry about the third axis. You're just going left and right and forward and backwards.
Yeah, I suppose so too. One of the things that might interest you folks, those of you who love a little bit of history, the very first autopilot that man devised was a ship's rudder. And it was, Lloyd's going right, I'm right under Lloyd. Ship's rudder was developed, and basically what it did was you had a magnetic compass, and you could set a compass heading, and a very simple device would keep the boat steering in the same direction. that you selected on the magnetic compass, and there we had, that was the very first autopilot.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Of course, I'm thinking really old school because you had a compass, you got yourself pointed the right direction, and then you tied the wheel in position.
Well, you did. Yeah.
Just locked it in position, and that was it. Yeah.
Yep.
I do that a lot when I'm driving around town. I just put the lock bar on there and just keep driving.
Why am I not surprised? I'm just not surprised.
And we've got more of that kind of technology happening in cars now as well, with the lane departure and the thing where it'll automatically correct and keep you in the lane. So autopilot coming to cars. Yeah. Anyway, look, we've reached the end of our show. Speaking of autopilot, we have been running on autopilot, and it's that time of the day where we go and pass on a few messages, the first of which is, if you want to send us anything, you can send it either via email to myself there, or you can put it in our Discord. Please do join our Discord server. There's people who are posting updates of interesting stuff throughout the week. Number two, please do follow us on social media, OzByDrone on the different platforms, and there's a postal address if you'd like to send us anything physical. Lloydie, last thoughts, last questions from you?
No, I did put in the chat, there is a link for a GoFundMe because Sonari, who a lot of people know, had a stroke about a week and a half ago, and she's needing some, she can't work, obviously, and Mel's taking care of her full-time right now. So if you guys saw the link, I'll put it in at the last. It's GoFundMe to kind of help them out, get through things, because she's unable to work and has no income because she's a waitress. So.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of drone people as well, and Raybob, for those who might know of Raybob, he's passed away.
You're kidding?
No.
Well, see, I didn't catch Ken's show last night. So did they announce it last night?
This was after Ken's show. He actually put up a separate video. So do go to Ken's channel, and Raybob is no longer with us. Very sad that he's no longer with us. So do go and check that out as well.
Yeah. I hate to hear that because he was a big part of anybody who's ever been in the chat over on Ken's show knows who Raybob is and his antics. Yeah.
Absolutely. Johnny, last thoughts from you before we go. Any other interesting CASA secret squirrel stuff?
Not at the moment. Nothing really much in from CASA. The only thing that we've had changed is the 250 gram micro limit. So that one was snuck through the door. So just quickly, if you had, before micro was 100 grams and under, now it's up to 250 grams. So it covers the Mavic Mini. There's no restrictions other than approach and departure pass around controlled aerodromes, but you have the 30-meter rule now. So just if you've got a Mavic Mini, check that out. You're not going to have to register that aircraft unless you're using it commercially. So that's the only one there. And that's all from me this week.
Okay, and just before we finish off, I haven't yet followed up with Sutherland Council just to see any progress on that one. For those who may have watched us recently, we did go out and have a meeting with them. They said it's all going to be resolved when the helicopter landing site, the existing one, is decommissioned and a new one created. So hopefully we'll hear some progress on that in the near future.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all for this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of the show, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.